Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, The Real Super Sam. This is another Complete History of video and I hope you enjoy. The Tinkerer is the third supervillain Spider-Man has ever faced. This villain is usually an old man who is a genius and makes weapons for criminals and himself. A lot of the time he doesn't get physical and has toys or a henchman for that. On my channel, I've looked at the complete history of Chameleon and the Vulture, so since Tinkerer is an easy character to make a complete history on, and he's the next one in the chronologically of Spider-Man villains, I did one on him. For being such a long-time Spider-Man villain, he's never had much to do besides just a cameo. I think he is underrated. And here is the complete history of the Tinkerer. The Tinkerer first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 2, May 10th, 1963. This story has Tinkerer working on a radio repair shop, and Peter Parker, the Amazing Spider-Man, is a customer of his today. Tinkerer has secretly been implanting spy devices into the radios of certain customers. The spy devices evidently enable them to estimate the Earth's strengths and weaknesses, and secretly, before the aliens he is housing in the basement strike. The Tinkerer is really doing all this to steal government secrets, and the aliens aren't real but ploys started by Quentin Beck, Mysterio, but that's explained later in Mysterio's story. Thanks to his spider sense, Spider-Man breaks into Tinkerer's lab, and Tinkerer surprise shoots him with his homemade fancy weapon, which knocks Spider-Man out, and then Tinkerer puts him in a hanging cage. But Spider-Man breaks out and fights, causing the aliens to flee, and Tinkerer all alone in his burning lab, going up in smoke. Spider-Man gets out of the fire, leaving Tinkerer behind. All of what happened is only in memory, except the mask of Tinkerer's face that Spider-Man picked up in a fight, leaving a lot of questions about the Tinkerer left unanswered. And those questions were left forgotten for a long time, until Amazing Spider-Man issues 159 and 160, August and September 1976. In issue 159, we see him in the shadows reconstructing the lost Spider-Mobile. Tinkerer, on orders of the Kingpin, is using Spidey's old Spider-Mobile to attack him with. The car gets Spider-Man stuck inside it, and it drives him to meet his enemy face to face after all these years. Tinkerer is back and reveals that he left the mask to confuse Spider-Man so he doesn't have an investigation sent after him. Now, Tinkerer makes weapons for other criminals, and he has a henchman, Toy, a robot he built. Spider-Man is then in a battle with Tinkerer, Toy, and the Spider-Mobile. He easily knocks Toy around, and Tinkerer accidentally gets knocked out by a car crash thanks to the Spider-Mobile. February 1978, he was in What If issue 7. He is seen being easily defeated by Captain Spider, an alternate reality where Flash Thompson becomes Spider-Man. Next, he was in Amazing Spider-Man, issue 183. In this issue, a man named Jackson Wheel is hiring Tinkerer to make him a supervillain weapon. Yeah, that guy becomes Big Wheel, and we see Tinkerer has fixed up with Toy again. Next, he was in The Incredible Hulk, issue 238, August 1979. Tinkerer is now an underworld Mr. Fix-It, and he today is fixing Goldbug's bug ship. Tinkerer returned in Spectacular Spider-Man, issue 53, April 1981. A woman is hysterical and rants about people taking the toys away on the ledge of a building. The officers trying to help her freak her out as she sees them as giant toys. The ledge then breaks, but Spider-Man saves them. Spider-Man then sees a man in the dark in the room the woman must have stepped out of. The guy swings and launches Spider-Man across the room. Then a Jack-in-the-Box sprays him with knockout gas. Spidey puts the spider tracer on the man as he flies away with a helicopter backpack. Following his tracer, he sees that the Tinkerer is back in town in his hideout Fix-It shop. Tinkerer is getting rich by committing crimes for himself, which has become a necessity because his prices for supervillain tech got to be too high. Hearing this, Spider-Man attacks his sidekick Toy, and Tinkerer then sends his secret weapon toys all around his shop to attack Spider-Man. Spider-Man then gets a bear hug by Toy. Toy's holding Spider-Man so Tinkerer can shoot him, but Spider-Man flips Toy into the ray, which, so to say, kills him. Seeing Toy is gone, this takes the fight out of Tinkerer. Tinkerer basically cries over Toy, and Spider-Man's left wondering how someone could treat toys better than human lives. He was next in Captain America, issue 324. In the story, Whirlwind and Trapster have brand new, stronger costumes thanks to the Tinkerer. And yes, Tinkerer gets his money for this. Honestly, the fandom site doesn't even list Tinkerer as a villain in his appearances, where he just gives supervillains their new weapons. Then Tinkerer was in Damage Control issue 1. In this issue, the superheroes of Marvel are fighting the Tinkerer's robot. He was in Amazing Spider-Man issue 310. The story happens, and in the end, it's revealed that a doctor at ESU has been forced by the Tinkerer to let him use his lab to create a new device. Tinkerer blackmailed Dr. Swan, since he learned that Dr. Swan never graduated high school. Anyway, this new weapon creates phantom electrons that can increase the speed and power of some weapon systems. He has a client for this power amplifier, Killer Shride, who arrives through the window and while fighting Spider-Man threatens Tinkerer to give him the new weapon. Tinkerer gives it to him alright, as he has left one part of it out, which short-circuits Killer Shride's suit when trying to use it. As Spider-Man wraps it up with Killer Shride, Tinkerer escapes. Next, he appeared in Web of Spider-Man issue 58. Tinkerer here is the one who fixes the Grizzly's exoskeleton and bear suit. Then, the New Mutants issue 86, which was in the Acts of Vengeance story arc. One thing I want to mention here, which I didn't mention in my Vulture history video, is this cover on purpose mimics the Amazing Spider-Man issue 2, where Vulture and Tinkerer first appeared, and Vulture and Tinkerer are both in this comic issue. I wish they did something like this for the movie Spider-Man Homecoming, kind of a Easter egg poster that looked like this. Anyway, in the story, Vulture breaks into Tinkerer's new lab. Tinkerer tries to fight back, as Vulture is about to kill him, since Tinkerer stole Vulture's wing design and sent it to him in jail. They calm him down, and Tinkerer explains that the mysterious person who hired Tinkerer to duplicate Vulture's wings and then break Adrian Toomes out of prison wants the hero Speedball gone, but that thing gets into more of Vulture's story than Tinkerer, so on to Tinkerer's next appearance, which was in the Marvel graphic novel issue 57. Rick Mason, the son of the Tinkerer Phineas Mason, is the star of this issue, working for the highest bidder, who today is Nick Fury, and that's how Tinkerer's son fits into an appearance, and Tinkerer fits into the appearance of this story. And Toy is also here. He was then in Alpha Flight issue 79, also during the Acts of Vengeance story arc. Tinkerer is shown to have been hired by Matt Gargan to fix a scorpion suit's tail for him. Then came Captain America 369, April 1990. This issue just has Diamondback coming back to Tinkerer since he has made her some new throwing stars. Next, Tinkerer was in Marvel Tales Volume 2, issue 236. A version of him and many other alternate Spider-Man villains show up for one panel. Tinkerer Dan was in an issue, one of the miniseries The Deadly Foes of Spider-Man, in issue 1. Here, Tinkerer has made a Beetle a better, stronger suit for his future crimes, and for getting him back the money Beetle owes him. Tinkerer was next in the Amazing Spider-Man 369 to 370. In these issues, Tinkerer helps Black Cat with some of her weapons, and he does the same thing for the Scorpion. Again. He was then in Cage issues 13 and 14. Tinkerer runs into Luke Cage and he asks him to help bring his son back to him since he's been captured by other bad guys. So the two team up to do it. They make a deal where Tinkerer gives Cage information on his dad, and with that he takes the criminal Tinkerer in as a client. November 1993, he was in the sensational She-Hulk 59. In this issue, the Tinkerer is being sued by many supervillains for selling them bad equipment as they claim. He was next in Captain America 425. Here, Tinkerer shows up to give the villain Super Patriot a shield weapon. January 1997, Tinkerer was in the Avengers of Spider-Man issue 10. Tinkerer is helping Beetle with his costume in this comic, his only comic appearance in the Spider-Man Task spin-off comic. February 1997, he appeared in Spider-Man Dead Man's Hand. Something has happened to Tinkerer's son, Rick, and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and he demands to know what's going on. Spider-Man disarms him, but they have a little fight, ending up in Tinkerer's lab. Tinkerer's son has the carry-on virus, and there is no cure. In the lab, Spider-Man convinces Tinkerer to give him a device which will let Spider-Man teleport anywhere in the world. And yeah, it's implied that Tinkerer has worked with S.H.I.E.L.D., and based off the Jackal's notes, develops a cure for the carry-on virus. January 1999, Tinkerer was in Spider-Man Chapter 1, Issue 3. It is a retelling on The Amazing Spider-Man issue 2. He was next in Cable issue 65. Tinkerer is very weird in this story. He is in his shop working on another machine job, but this time for the Magia. He gets caught and then has the guys who caught him beaten up. May 1999, Tinkerer was in Spider-Man Chapter 1, issue 0. He was in the very end of the comic and is shown to repair the Vulture's wings for him. He appeared for a cameo in Spider-Man Tangled Web, issue 13. He has a background cameo. Next, he was in Deadline, issue 2, then in issue 4. After being sent to prison by the judge and losing his son Rick to criminals, the judge himself has set free. The Tinkerer tried to set him up. However, in the process, he accidentally killed the judge's wife and seriously injured the judge himself. Feeling guilty for his actions, he attempted to revive him. He succeeded, but through unknown means, the judge gained supernatural powers. This left him with no memory of the Tinkerer's actions. This reporter for the series eventually uncovers the truth and tells the judge about the Tinkerer accidentally killing his wife. The judge then attacks Tinkerer and is furious. But he leaves Tinkerer alive at the end, since the jury he calls with his powers deems that the Tinkerer is truly sorry for what he's done. He was next in Secret War, Issue 1. It is confirmed to the reader that Tinkerer has been developing supervillain weapons and repairing them for tens of criminals like Doc Ock and Grim Reaper. Tinkerer was then in Marvel Age Spider-Man, Issue 1. This mini-story was the exact same story with the Tinkerer, just in another universe, but with new, and in my opinion, better jokes. Tinkerer was in Marvel Knights Spider-Man Issue 6 and then Issue 12. Here, Tinkerer is the auctioneer of the Venom symbiote suit to a bunch of other supervillains bidding for it. And in Issue 12, he's doing the same thing with the Scorpion suit. Tinkerer made his first appearance in the Ultimate Universe in Ultimate Spider-Man Issue 90. In this universe, Tinkerer is named Elijah Stern when it comes to the Ultimate Spider-Man series, and he created the Vulture suit and hired Blackie Drago to get revenge on his former company Roxxon. Anyway, instead of getting arrested or killed and his stuff taken away, he greased the workless shield on his inventions. He was then in Ultimate Fantastic Four Annual 2. But this one was the actual Tinkerer with the real name Phineas Mason in the comic, but he's not named the Tinkerer here. Anyway, I wanted to mention that, because the Fantastic Four and Phineas's co-workers get trapped underground by the Mole Man, and in the end, Tinkerer sort of saves everyone with his co-workers. Then he decides to stay below ground, where no one can bother them, I guess because they're awkward nerds, I don't know. Next came Punisher War Journal Volume 2, Issue 1. In this story, Tinkerer is just in his crime van, and Punisher breaks in and makes him be his getaway driver. That's really it, but Tinkerer does show that at all times he has information. In January 2007, Tinkerer premiered in the Marvel Adventures universe in Marvel Adventures Spider-Man Issue 21. The story starts with 3 new supervillains. Spider-Man tracks them down and sees they all got their super suits from some online guy calling himself the Tinkerer. Spider-Man goes to the Tinkerer's hideout in a dump, but Tinkerer really just prepared for this, as he has a bidding war between the crime bosses of New York for his gadgets, and the bidding ends when his lackeys, who are in the suits he's controlling, kill Spider-Man. His plan fails and Spider-Man interrogates him, but Tinkerer was a robot tonight and he blows apart. And then Ultimate Tinkerer returned in Ultimate Spider-Man 101. In this issue, Tinkerer is controlling the Spider Slayer robots he built for S.H.I.E.L.D. as they fight Carnage. Tinkerer was in Wolverine Origins Issue 12 and in Issue 15. Tinkerer is in a wheelchair because of what the Punisher did to him. Here he meets Wolverine after he breaks into his lab. They make a deal for Tinkerer to help interrogate Cyber. Tinkerer then gives Cyber a pacemaker made out of carbodanium, super strong, and he can't take it off. February 2008, he was in Punisher War Journal 2006, Issue 16. Today, Tinkerer is in sort of like a villain therapy group, still trying to make some money by trading. May 17th, 2008, Tinkerer made his premiere appearance in the cartoon show, The Spectacular Spider-Man, Episode 10, Persona. Yes, this was his very first time in a cartoon show. In the episode, Tinkerer works with the Chameleon and Quentin Beck. Tinkerer makes creative devices like a flying disc that shoots lasers, but gets knocked out by a black cat during a failed cruise ship robbery. Secret Invasion Fantastic Four 2008, number 3, Tinkerer was back in. Ironically and unfortunately, while out buying ice cream for his grandchildren, the Tinkerer was arrested for not registering under the Superhuman Registration Act despite being retired and no longer active. He was not given a fair trial and was sentenced to prison in the negative zone. In the end, the Tinkerer ends his hate of the man who arrested him after meeting his kid. July 2008, Tinkerer appeared in Ultimate Fantastic Four Issue 54. Here, Phineas Mason is just a cameo. He was then in Ultimate Fantastic Four 56 to 58. In all these issues, Phineas Mason is again a cameo. I don't really consider this guy Ultimate Tinkerer, it's just he's Phineas Mason, so yeah. He was next in The Age of Sentry, Issue 1. Tinkerer is in a little story working with the Mad Thinker to fight the Sentry. October 21st, 2008, Tinkerer made his first video game appearance in Spider-Man Web of Shadows for the Xbox 360 and PS3. In the game, you break the Tinkerer out of prison so he can help you get rid of the symbiote invasion New York is going through. Tinkerer creates and completes his device to save the city in the game, and if you choose the bad symbiote suit ending, Tinkerer has symbiote Wolverine hunt you down. In the PSP version of the game, Tinkerer was a boss fight. Tinkerer is in a robot and fights Spiderman in it, and then gets jailed. Invincible Iron Man 2008 issues 4 and issue 7 he appeared in. In issue 4 he is just teased. Issue 7 is where he's arrested by having black market connections by selling illegal superhero equipment. January 11th, 2009, he was in the Spectacular Spider-Man episode 14, Blueprints, but just as a cameo, shown to be working with Quentin Beck, who is now Mysterio, and both of them are working for a guy codenamed Master Planner. January 25th, 2009, he was in episode 16 titled Reinforcement. Tinkerer is tech support in this episode, as he is in direct contact with the Master Planner and helps put together a new Sinister Six. Also, Tinkerer was voiced by Tom Cox Hernandez in the show. And on February 8th, 2009, he appeared in episode 17, Sheer Strength. He sent Dr. Octopus's arms to retrieve him, and setting up all the tech that Mysterio stole, the Master Plan is ready to begin. Tinkerer made his last appearance in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon in episode 22, Probable Cause, on March 15th, 2009. Here, Tinkerer has made Enforcer members Ricochet and Ox supervillain costumes. Tinkerer appeared in Wolverine Origins issues 35 and 36. Tinkerer has returned to New York City today. Later, it is seen that Daken has a meeting with the Tinkerer, who is one of the 4 people in the world that confused the blade through his claws. And Tinkerer begins surgery to coat Daken's claws with the metal of the blade that was shattered. I think the name was Mur Amasa. Anyway. On September 15th, 2009, Tinkerer was in the video game Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. He was voiced by Phil Proctor. The Tinkerer was responsible for augmenting the powers of and armor of several supervillains. Sometime later, Nick Fury found evidence proving that he was receiving support from Lucia von Barth, acting ruler of Latveria at the time. Thus, Nick Fury talked several heroes into accompanying him on a mission into Latveria to shut down the Tinkerer's operation. The heroes you play as find Tinkerer in the labs and fight several of his creations, including a large tank-like structure he uses in an attempt to get rid of them. The heroes stop him. Later in the game, Tinkerer is hired by Fury to help investigate the source of the disturbance that cost the pro-registration forces their control over the nanite-infused supervillains. Tinkerer was recruited by the nanites still for his tech support. The heroes fight Tinkerer, who is accompanied by several nanite-controlled soldiers. He escapes and blocks the stasis signal from the top of the tower there, only to be knocked out by the heroes once they reach the top. He was then in Vengeance of Moon Knight issue 2, October 2009. Mark Spector, Moon Knight, hires Tinkerer to upgrade his gear. September 7th, 2010, Tinkerer is in the DS version of the game Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. Here, he is an enemy of the Amazing Spider-Man, and physically you fight his robots. He next appeared in Amazing Spider-Man issue 651. At the end of the issue, Hobgoblin tracks down Tinkerer to have him upgrade and fix his weapons. Ultimate Tinkerer returned in Ultimate Spider-Man 158. Blackie Drago, with the rest of the Sinister Six, go to the Tinkerer in his lab and take his weapons from him. Tinkerer was in Iron Age 2011 issue 2. In the story, he runs into Iron Man, tries to shoot him, but Iron Man blasts him down. September 2011, Tinkerer appeared in Marvel Adventure Spider-Man Volume 2, Issue 18. Tinkerer is back for his final Marvel Adventures universe appearance. He is confirmed to be a genius inventor still, and he made the Beatles' armor and Goblin's pumpkin bombs. Spider-Man was talking to Tinkerer on how to stop Goblin's newest bomb, then webs his feet to the roof and swings off. Ultimate Tinkerer made his last appearance in Ultimate Comics Spider-Man issue 7. It was the issue he died in. Tinkerer was blamed for his client's equipment usage. And after they talk a little about the new Spider-Man, Prowler murders him in cold blood. Next came Avenging Spider-Man issue 13. Tinkerer is Hypno Hustler's roommate, and he's just chilling on his bed. Hypno Hustler actually hypnotized him to stop smoking. He was in Superior Spider-Man issue 15. It is revealed Tinkerer and Hobgoblin are still working together. On October 3rd, 2013, Tinkerer was in the mobile game Marvel Puzzle Quest. Then, he was in Superior Foes of Spider-Man issue 9, March 2014. The Tinkerer made a robot of Bullseye so the owl could trick Boomerang. And then, Avengers Undercover 2014, issue 2 and issue 7 were next for him. Tinkerer is interpreted here as a creepy robot-like guy very mesmerized by Deathlock's machinery. In issue 7, he actually helps the young Avengers by saving one with brain surgery, but is still creepy fascinated by their powers and tech. October 2014, Tinkerer was in The Amazing Spider-Man Who Am I issue 7 as a cameo. February 2017, Tinkerer was in Unbelievable Gwenpool issue 9. In this story, Tinkerer, while leaving his workshop, sees a robot just wandering around and he takes it in. He basically treats it like a son. It is a Deadpool-type comic for comedy. Next, he was in Spider-Woman Volume 6, issue 15. And yeah, you may have guessed it, but Tinkerer is still shown to be working with Hobgoblin. June 2017, he was in Peter Parker The Spectacular Spider-Man 2017, issue 1. In here, we meet Tinkerer's brother named Hopini Mason. Then, Tinkerer made his live-action debut in the movie Spider-Man Homecoming, putting Tinkerer in the MCU. On July 7th, 2017, he was portrayed by Michael Chernus. Tinkerer works for Adrian Toomes' salvage company, then they all lose their jobs, so they decide to get into the weapon trafficking business as they still have some Chitauri tech from the Battle of New York cleanup they started. Tinkerer then creates a bunch of weapons for Vulture and others with his skills over the years. Just like the comics, Tinkerer is a master engineer. During the movie, he is Vulture's man in the chair telling him stuff about how these tech weapons are supposed to be used. The end of the movie has him not arrested, so he's still out there in the universe. Then he appeared in Spectacular Spider-Man 2017, issues 3 through 5. In this story, Spider-Man finds the Tinkerer, but he has a giant robot again and attacks Spider-Man. Tinkerer escapes Spider-Man here after a big fight on the streets. He then hires Vulture to destroy his old lab. December 1st, 2017, he was in the show Marvel Superhero Adventures, Episode 6. In the 3-minute short, Spider-Man and Captain America find Tinkerer's lair and whip him up, defeating his robots too. Then he was in the Spectacular Spider-Man 298 through 300. Today, Tinkerer has made another destructive robot fighting some heroes, calling it the Hero Slayer. And it's revealed that Tinkerer's brother was a robot that he was controlling. Tinkerer is now on a mad rampage, but why? Well, roughly a decade ago into the past, the Tinkerer came across a damaged scouting robot belonging to an alien race sentient AIs known as Vadami. The Vadami's mission consisted on studying how societies across the cosmos treated artificial intelligence. If they found a society used AI in a submissive manner, they punished it. After fixing and bringing back to life this scouting robot, Phineas became friends with it and convinced it to hold off any possible invasion. Then, someone burned down the Tinkerer's lab, and he lost all the notes on the Vadami. As the years went by and the Tinkerer became disheartened by humanity, he decided to create a tipping point the Vadami could not ignore if they decided to return. Tinkerer began working on a contingency plan to negate any potential resistance to the Vadami's eventual arrival. Since he already had access to the secrets of the supervillain community, Phineas fabricated a persona to gain the trust of superheroes as his robot brother. Anyway, his mad robot then gets stopped in the story. Tinkerer was in the Spider-Man cartoon Marvel's Spider-Man Season 2 premiere, which was episode 26 of the series titled How I Thwipped My Summer Vacation, which came out on June 18th, 2018. He was voiced by Aaron Abrams. Tinkerer created a wand that controls objects he points it at to fly anywhere. Spider-Man easily whips him to a wall, and Tinkerer says he was doing it because he was tired of losing his baseball team. I think he was really betting on the losing team to win to get money, and he made it happen with his wand. August 13, 2018, he was in episode 37 called The Brain Drain. Tinkerer has these bands that give him mechanical shape-changing weapons to fight Spider-Man with, but he loses. And then he was in Spectacular Spider-Man issues 306 to 307. Phineas was arrested by S.H.I.E.L.D. on charges of domestic terrorism. He offered to feed the agency technical information on superheroes in exchange for freedom. The Tinkerer escaped from custody, though, using his special glasses to hack into Ironheart's armor and force her to take him to the Vadami mothership. There, Tinkerer then wore a Vadami battlesuit. Then the Tinkerer intercepted Spider-Man and overpowered him in the subsequent battle. Spider-Man had merged with the capsule's nanobots and used their power to connect his and the Tinkerer's minds. After discovering that Phineas was simply sorrowful and resentful towards humanity, Spider-Man made him experience his own suffering, which changed Tinkerer's point of view and made him regret helping the Vadami. Phineas stepped aside, allowing Spider-Man to overwrite the Vadami's programming, which made them leave the Earth. Tinkerer was then in Marvel Knights 20th, issue 4, and issue 6. He was visible on the last page as an Easter egg in issue 4, and in issue 6 he was in just a giant fight with everyone. On September 8th, 2019, Tinkerer returned in Marvel's Spider-Man episode 39, The Day Without Spider-Man, and no, that's not a mess up on my video. Between episode 13 and 14 of season 3, there was a 13th month break and no new episodes, and episodes 12 and 13 were basically a two-parter that premiered the same day. I meant to say season 2, not season 3, sorry. Anyway, Tinkerer has teamed up with Scorpion. He was a blaster this time. And in the end of the episode, he has a giant robot he used to fight the Spider-Man people. December 2019, there was a version of Tinkerer in Doom 2099, Volume 2. Tinkerer in this universe lives in the Outlands like Luke Skywalker in Episode 4, but Doom comes to him for help fixing his stuff. August 16th, 2020, Tinkerer made his last appearance in Marvel's Spider-Man cartoon in Episode 55, titled Spider-Man Unmasked. Tinkerer has little flying robots to fire at Spider-Man, which he controls. He is wearing a monocle now, too. Spider-Man easily stops him, and that was his last appearance in the show today. Ultimately, 3/4 of the times he showed up was for an opening fight. His last comic appearance to date was Spider-Man Marvel Snapshots 2020. Tinkerer is here, doing his shady work like always. Back to normal for 616 Tinkerer, I guess. On November 12th, 2020, a version of the Tinkerer was the main villain for the game Spider-Man Miles Morales for PS4 and PS5. After Peter Parker leaves town on vacation, Miles Morales is left to protect his city, and literally the night Peter gets ready to leave, the Underworld, a gang with super weapons, attacks a Roxxon lab building, and Miles Spider-Man's goal now is to stop them. Here, Tinkerer is a girl, and her name is Finn Mason. She was Miles Morales' best friend. Her older brother Rick became sick by a new form of clean energy he created for Roxxon company called Newform. To save people, Rick and Finn both decided to invade the Roxxon testing facility to destroy a newly constructed Newform reactor by overloading it in an attempt to stop Roxxon's tests. While helping her brother to deactivate the reactor, they were suddenly interrupted by Simon Krieger. They took back control over the system, trapping Rick inside the overloading reactor, killing him while Finn watched. This left Finn traumatized, swearing revenge on Roxxon and Krieger. Finn then joined up with the gang underground. She provided them with weapons made of a new kind of programmable matter tech, and in exchange they would help her fight Roxxon. Finn's plan is to boycott Roxxon by stealing a Newform sample so she could use it to overload the new reactor, blowing up Roxxon Plaza before it could open to the public. She sent a group of underground members to wreak havoc on the mayor rally Miles' mom, Rio Morales, is at, while Tinkerer and another group went to the bridge to steal the Newform from the shipment truck, but things got out of control when Spider-Man appeared to intervene, and accidentally caused the rest of the Newform to explode, destroying the bridge. When Tinkerer takes the Newform to Roxxon Plaza at the end of the game, Spider-Man tries to stop her, telling her she's walking into a trap made by Roxxon head Simon Krieger. As she blows up the reactor, it will destroy all of Harlem, but she doesn't listen to him since he's lied and fought her before. So these two old friends fight each other in a crazy, destructive battle. After Miles uses his bioelectric powers to absorb the reactor's energy, Finn sacrifices herself by using her programmable matter boots to propel herself and Miles high above Manhattan so Miles could safely release the reactor's energy stored inside his body, killing herself in the process. And that was the end of the Tinkerer in the comics, movies, cartoons, and video games to date. This was a very neat Complete History Of video to do. I was surprised at how cool Tinkerer's stories could get. And this video had everything about anything with the Tinkerer in it now. A cool piece of trivia is Phineas naming his brother Hopani appears to imply that Tinkerer is named after the biblical character Phineas, son of Eli. The Tinkerer operates a public shop. People wanting to hire him have to deal in criminal technology must first identify themselves with the password, "I've got a radio that just can't carry a tune," so that Tinkerer knows they are to be trusted. A physical threat Tinkerer is really only when he is controlling a robot or in a video game Miles Morales. I did not care at all for this Marvel's Spider-Man PlayStation Universe's version of this classic Spidey villain, honestly. I think Tinkerer is just used to be a genius guy in almost all of his stories that do not have Spider-Man in them. I did find it interesting while he was in a wheelchair for a while. I would say his greatest story was a super recent one in Spectacular Spider-Man 306 to 307. I think another great way to take Tinkerer's character is back in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 53, where he cried over his robot toy. I think with some tuning, Tinkerer could be Marvel's Toy Man from DC Comics. It would be interesting to give Tinkerer a creepy childlike toy creature design, like Toyman from the DCAU. Man, I missed the issues where Tinkerer used weapons that at first just looked like children's toys. And there we go, another Spider-Man Rogue history done on my channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I very much enjoyed making this video for you all. Bye guys, and have a great day.